Hi testers, Barry from MOT Juice here. This month we'd like to talk about site audits or site reviews. What we do know is that the DVSA are now planning these site visits and site reviews with some aggression. They've got over 300 VEs across the UK who can conduct 3 site audits per day each. That means they could go to all 26,000 MOT bays once every 6 weeks if they put their mind to it. So if you haven't had a site visit for a long time, expect to get one very soon. So before we get into the MOT Juice Site Audit, let's have a look at what Neil Barlow from the DVSA has to say. I've taken the liberty of highlighting an important statement by Neil Barlow at the DVSA. He states clearly on this screen, we will be focusing more on compliance. The important thing to remember is that by using the site audit to record all of our housekeeping and cross-checks, we're building up a documented proof of our quality management system, which is what leads us to become compliant and remain compliant. Okay, Neil also talks about premises and equipment. If we think about that, have you got any proof that you've checked all your equipment recently and that you've logged that check? That's the kind of thing that the VEs are going to be looking for when they come and visit this time. Okay, for me, perhaps the most important thing to remember is that if you're using the MOT Juice system and using it properly, it will meet and surpass the needs of the DVSA. So let's move on. So I'm logged into the back office of MOT Juice, and in the left hand menu I can see site audits. I'd have clicked that and come to this page here, which is the start of a site audit process. The auditor I've chosen as myself, and importantly I've chosen that I'm going to send a copy of this audit report to all of these people within this depot. Okay, the auditor can be anybody you want it to be. There is a drop down list there where you can select anybody that's a tester at your site or the site manager and appoint that person to be the MOT site auditor for this month. It's important for me to spread the job around. Don't let one person always be the auditor. Let each tester do it each month and build up a better understanding of what's going on. We never know who the VE is going to talk to when he arrives, so it's good to share this job around. Okay, the next few screens we'll have a bounce around in now so you can get a flavour of the site audit, and then you can have a play with it yourselves. Let's move on. The DVSA will need proof that your VTS is taking security matters seriously. On this page we can select the people who are present at this site and approve to send an email notifying them of their security obligations. You can see now that the little faces have gone from sad to happy. That's our goal, to get everybody happy. And as soon as we press next, this system will automatically remind all of the testers at this site of their security obligations. And then this site audit will be your record of reminding everybody about their security obligations. That way a VE cannot hold you against the wall for not taking security obligations seriously. Right, let's move to the next screen. So these screens are really straightforward to fill in now. You tick the items as you've done them. You can see the little smiley face improving. On SAR 4.5 I would pay particular notice or attention to the notice board and the authorised examiner details. We know from experience that VEs are paying a lot of attention to that, and often it can be wrong. Your authorised examiner details need to be the same on your notice board as they are at Companies House. You can log into Companies House and check your registered office. Just make sure they're right before you tick that box. Let's move on to the next one. So this page asks us if our MOT station offers discounts. The more discounts you offer, the worse score you're going to get. But don't worry if you do offer discounts. If you offer discounts, just put a strong supporting statement in there, and remember that it's more important for us to have recorded it and be aware of it than it is for the VE to find out. Remember, the DVSA in quality management systems are saying to us that they expect things to be wrong. They just expect us to be aware of it and record it and be able to prove that we're aware of it and prove that we've recorded it. So this process is important. Don't try and hide the fact that you give discounts. If you do, just make sure you've recorded it properly. The next page talks about checking our notice board is in the right place. The VT9 is displayed and accurate. It does ask us about opening hours. It's not compulsory or mandatory anymore, but lots of older VEs seem to like to see it. I think really you've got to make your own judgment on whether you display your opening hours. It doesn't cost you anything to display them on the notice board. If you want to, great. If you don't want to, talk to your VE. Right, let's move on to the next page. This page is asking us about workload management and booking in processes, things that the DVSA do perceive as a risk if we don't have proper systems. At your garage you'll have your own systems which may or may not be brilliant, but you need to be sure that you can display how they work and how they are used to mitigate any risk. The fourth question on this page asks you about a booking system. If your VTS doesn't have an online booking system or any way to track and record bookings, give us a call. We have a booking system available through the back office now, and the support girls will be quite happy to help you. The next page asks us about handover processes. Every business will be different. You'll know what your own process is. Importantly, the fifth question asks us if there's a process for improving staff input or improvements via staff input. That supporting statement is quite important in our businesses, and we recommend you have a toolbox chat. You can then just put brief notes about anything you discussed, anything you think you need to improve. That's forming a major part of your documented proof of good compliance. So do put a decent statement in there, don't just put rubbish in there, that's really important. Right, next page. The next page in the audit is about scheme changes. Nowadays most of this stuff is kept electronically. Your local VE may still want to see hard copies. Sometimes they prefer not to see hard copies. Tick off what you do, ignore what you don't do, and make your own judgment. For me, best practice, keep electronic copies, keep paper copies, that way you can't get in trouble depending on which VE turns up. If you want to bookmark a lot of the modern electronic guide, the matter of testing blog, the testing guide, the manual, I would suggest bookmark them and keep them at the top of your page. If you need help doing that, give the girls in the office here a ring and they'll talk you through how to do that. So let's assume that I've done all those things, got my smiley face, and I'll move to my next page. Our next page is nice and easy, codes of practice. You are definitely one of these. You may be one of the other things. Tick what you are and go to the next page. Our next page is about staff retention. Every business is going to be different. You'll have to make your own judgment on what you can answer there. I'm thinking about asking the team to put a comments box on there. If you'd like to see one there, give the girls in support a ring and talk to them about it. If we get enough people requesting it, perhaps we'll add it in. Our next page is about incentives. Clearly the DVSA don't like the idea of us giving incentives. If you do give them, you're marked down slightly for it, but there's no point in lying about it if you do it. So let's move to our next screen. So we find ourselves at SAR 14.4, asking questions about quality management systems. The box is already ticked because by using MOT Juice you're already using the leading compliance software in the UK. The most important thing to remember, guys, is that the system will only be as good as the information that you put in. So don't mark things as correct if they're not correct. Don't be afraid to find things that are wrong. Okay, another thing that is important, if you're working for a group or a dealer group, your owner can see what's been done and who it's being done by. So we're not trying to grass you testers up to your bosses by identifying that. The bosses are being diligent and making sure that they're protected against the DVSA, which in turn protects your jobs. So it's important that we do this stuff and that we do it right. So the SAR 415 around staff training, you are using the MOT Juice system for your training. Ignore that those ones are not up to date. There's a new depot that we've taken over. Workplace throughput, again, you can answer that without too much help from me. Workshop appearance, really simple questions. It's either right or it isn't right. Moving on to equipment management, you can use this MOT Juice system to do your equipment management. That's moved us forward a little bit. We can see our progression up here. We're 65% the way through this site audit now. On SAR 419, hand tool management, we've got a list of all the compulsory tools that you should have and a couple of other questions. As far as I'm aware, the development team are working this week on adding a little button here so you can print that off if you want to walk around and have a checklist that you can walk around with. As soon as it's available, you'll see a print button there anyway. So as with all things on MOT Juice, don't forget you can be doing these site audits on your phone. These will work perfectly well on any mobile device, an iPad, an iPhone, any Android phones. You can go around and mark the findings of your tool check or any part of the site audit on your phone. While we're talking about tools, we're seeing that a lot of MOT bays are getting caught out for calibrations on their tyre tread depth gauge. Typically there are 5 or 6 of those tyre tread depth gauges kicking around every MOT bay, and you can never really tell which is the one that you're supposed to have calibrated. So if you've got multiple depth gauges, throw away or hide the ones you don't use, and that way that's another thing for the VE not to moan about. If we jump for a minute from our screen over to the MOT testing guide, we can see that any test carried out using equipment that requires calibration that cannot be validated attracts 50 points per test. So going back to our tyre depth gauge, if the VE gets really nasty with you, he could pick you up for lots and lots of tests done with uncalibrated equipment. So please, again, do be careful what you're doing about those little depth gauges. The next page that we come to, 74% along our progress, is just some basic housekeeping stuff. These questions don't form a part of a compulsory site review, but they're all important things to make sure that you have, and I find are really embarrassing if you don't have when a VE comes to visit you. Next, we find ourselves on the best practice MOT maintenance screen. Go down the list, tick things that have been done. Don't tick off things that haven't been done. It's important that we don't get caught out saying that we've done things that we haven't done. The DVSA are asking us to be vigilant in our compliance. That word vigilant we keep seeing pop up in DVSA literature all over the place. So ask yourself if you are being vigilant, because the VE, when he comes to check, will be thorough and will be vigilant. Okay? If you miss something off this list or it can't be done, you can jump down to the actions section, and in this section, which we'll show you in a moment, you can add here tasks that need to be done. So let's move back to our next section in order of this actual site audit. Our next page is additional items of best practice. Tick off things that have been done. If they don't apply to your VTS, just ignore them. If you think you would like to add things to this list unique to your VTS, we will take suggestions on things that can be added to that page. But please call us with sensible things. Let's move to the next page. The next page gives us somewhere to add notes about this site audit or site review. It's pretty important that you add sensible stuff in here. Try and make it constructive. Be brief. You're not trying to write an essay. They can just be bullet points. Anything that you need to refer back to, stick that in here, and then jump to the next page. Here we are on review section 2, actions. This is Barry's favourite page. On this page we can list all the things that we found that are wrong. So I've put some ideas in here. Change the batteries in the electric tachometer, turn plate's not clean. Whereas our level gone for checking the ramp level. What else? Let's say brake roller needs grit, and add another action there. These actions will be saved and be a part of this site audit, and won't go away until we get rid of them. So they're part of our quality management system. Yes, that is what the DVSA want to see. Right, let's move to the next page. Our next page shows us the resolutions that were listed in last month's site audit. So these are things that we found that we needed to do: buy a leak detector spray, better housekeeping of workshop, toilets and reception. If these things have been done, we can tick them off. And as we tick them off, they are gone from our site audit history. And it shows that we found a problem, identified it and resolved it. Again, I keep harping on about this, but it's so important that we can display a proper quality management system to a VE or to the DVSA. Let's move to the next page. So here we are on the last page of the audit. Your monthly audit has been completed. Don't press this button yet. Okay, as soon as you press that button, you will have saved the audit and you can't edit anything. I would suggest just be careful, go back and have a look through everything, make sure you're happy with it before you get to this page and actually confirm that you've done it. All of the information in the site audit helps to protect you as testers and to protect your MOT testing station and your employer. Okay, remember, anything that we put in the site audit report gets sent to everybody that we selected at the start. So if you found something that's wrong with the MOT bay and it hasn't been fixed and it's putting your job at risk, you can rest assured that you've notified your employer. It's now really a little bit down to the employer to make sure that they work with you to put these things right. At MOT Juice, we know that it's never great when a VE comes to visit and does a site review. If you've had any bad experiences, good experiences, anything you'd love to share with us, please do contact us. You can use the back office support tickets, go on Facebook, social media, ring the girls in the office, do what you want to do. We'd love to share your pain with the community and see what we can all learn from VE site visits, and hopefully all be in a better place by sharing that knowledge. Thanks for watching this video.